I'm realizing I actually really put the U.S. at a disadvantage and don't give up the ship. The wind should have been coming from the northwest to the southeast. I looked at this one, and I know the Wasp was the victor in it. This is the Wasp versus Frolic, and the reason I'm doing this is to give you a couple lighter ships in here. But I noticed the way the wind was, it looked like it was going that way, and I'm like, wow, that's pretty harsh. So I had to actually look up the roll, and yeah, for this scenario, it's supposed to be the direction the wind's coming from, like a northeaster, or anyway. This is what we got, a couple of lighter ships here, both considered 6th rate, which means they take only 4 hits to sink. The other thing that's interesting on them, a lot of guns on these suckers, huh? 52 guns, or 52 points of gunfire. This isn't the amount of guns they have. The actual guns, I thought that this was supposed to be the actual guns on these. The Chesapeake and Shannon were both 38 gunners, and you can see their firepower was in the 50s. I should have known those are frigates. They wouldn't be that big. And these guys are like 18 to 19 guns. So that's just an effectiveness rating. Remember, the rate of the ship factors into how well it fires. So that's more kind of like an effectiveness of fire rating. And you'll see the less effective ships having weaker firepower, or maybe the less gunned ships for their size, whatever. But what's kind of neat here is we have carronades, and carronades are interesting. They can only fire a maximum range of 8. Now 8 means, right, 3, 6, 8 to about here. So we're just closing into maximum range here. The other thing about carronades are they add 10 if you're within basically 1 space to your firepower. So that's going to be pretty potent. What we're going to actually see is a fairly similar battle, maybe a little bit more gun, a little bit more powered towards the guns on this. But I thought I'd show you because the light ships are kind of interesting. They take a few less hits. They still pack the same kind of punch relative to each other, but the battle should be a little quicker. I don't know if I'm going to do all of the battles. I love Old Ironsides. There's another 2-ship battle for them. I don't think I'm going to do that. I don't know. It's easy enough to do these little ones, right? All right, we'll set this up, figure out who's going, and kick it off. But it looks like the U.S. is going to have the wind gauge on this. Okay, so we flip over the counters that I've chosen at the beginning, and we got both of them going ahead. Ahead's usually the worst choice because it precludes turning. And for the Americans, we are running, and this is a Class A ship, so that works out to be a 4. Whereas for the Brits, it looks like we're beam reaching, and that'll also end up as a 4. So wind gauge is indeterminate, odd for the Americans. We got the Brits having the wind gauge. We're going to force the Americans to go first. That gives a 2. Now here's the question. Am I going to change the nature of the game here? No, I'm going to keep it allowing the wind gauge to have that tremendous advantage. So the Americans go again. We're too far away to actually fire on anything there. I mean, maybe not. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm in range of the carronades, but it's no fun to shoot at somebody at that range. Maybe if you're doing rigging shots, but I'd rather let them get close. And now we've got, let me make sure that's right. Was I in 1805 to begin with? Yeah. Thought I might have moved an extra space. So now here we're at 2, 4. And now at 3 space range, that's too much to refuse. So I've got a 52 base shot. No rake, but I'm at plus 10 for the carronades, 62, that's good enough. And first fire, and I'm going to have to write these ships down. First fire is worth, is it just 10? It's 20 at this range, so I'm at 82. And I get a 25, that's over 40. Difference. So I actually do 2 hits to the U.S. ship, and the poor Wasp will take 2 hull hits. And what's our other here? The Frolic. And the Frolic has fired its starboard. I shouldn't do port and right. My ex-wife, she had no problem telling her left from her right, but she couldn't tell her port from her starboard, and she ended up writing on the backs of her hand a P and an S to remind her when we were playing. I don't remember what it was, trireme or ironclads or something of that nature, just so that she could always remember. Now, technically this is flipped over, but we're back and are ready for the first turn now, or for the second turn. Now that's a mighty blow. The Brits having the advantage. We both get a port pick. Why did the Brits take a port? For the Americans, it's quite obvious, cutting across the bow. But for the Brits, the idea is align myself with the wind, try to get the advantage. I can probably win this because I'm doing well at this point. I don't have to take any weird risks. So again, we're at even odds for the wind gauge. And again, the Brits get it. And the Brits are going to go first this time so that they can unload again. And they'll move here. Now I could turn, but I don't terribly want to yet. But I am going to unload that starboard gun again. And no restriction on recycling or anything like that. Some games require that you have some amount of time pass before you fire the same guns. The numbers aren't as good this time. I'm at 52. Well, maybe they are. 52, carronade puts it up to 62, 72 for the bow rake. That's all I get. It's close to the last time. 72, 53, that says I get another hit on the Wasp. No criticals here. Now that's two of my movement. I have the option on who gets to move next. If I give the Wasp the next move, he's allowed to do one or another of the avoidance moves. On the other hand, if I take the next move, I go 2, and I take a port move, and I have just prevented a rake. And I'm flipped over here, which is a good move. For the Wasp, well, I also have a port move, and I have the remainder of the moves. So what do I want to do? I can't back sail in this position. Backing sail would require, what about heaving to? Heaving to requires that I'm beating. Backing sail requires I'm beating or beam reaching, but I'm running, so I can't stop here, which would be kind of interesting if I could. So instead, I'll shift forward, and I'll unload, looks like my starboard guns for a first shot. Now my total here, let's move this up to 2, is 52 as well, plus 10 for the, plus 20 for the carronades, isn't it? No, plus 10 for the carronades. 62 plus 20 for first broadside brings it up to 82. And now this is my chance to shoot back. I don't want to go for rigging. I want to try to hurt this thing. And I only get one hit because I'm less than 40 behind, but I get a critical. And a critical is often, you know, where things kind of happen that decide these battles. I get a 2, that's a wheel critical. Well, we haven't seen one of those in the other battle. What that's going to do is if the target ship has a command ship, it's removed and it'll drift. In addition, at every command decision phase, the owner has to roll a die for each of his ships that have been issued a command with a wheel critical. If it's greater than the current crew value of the ship, now the crew value is taking a hit from this. So my crew value is down to a 7. My crew value is actually less than the Wasp. Interesting. So let me put a little W here to mark that I've got a wheel critical. If it's greater than the crew value, the command ship is removed. If it's equal to or less than the crew value, I succeed. Well, right now I haven't taken enough damage for that wheel hit to be important. My crew is good enough that I'm safe with the Brits. yeah, that could be a really devastating effect otherwise. I've got another move with the Americans. And here's a problem. I turn like that. If the Brits get the first move and they're able to, yeah, they're beam reaching. They're gonna have to move here, or yeah, beam reaching. I can leave the decision of who goes first up to chance, or I could just give it to the Brits this way. Giving it to the Brits is dangerous because the Brits can get a rake on me, so I'll leave it up to chance there. And that is my 4 movement. And now we go into turn 3, and I pick my chip. Right, both ships are broad reaching now, and that gives them a movement of 6 each, and they've both chosen to move towards the port. Again, odd for the Americans. And the Americans get the advantage this time. Not too big a deal. The Brits could have lined up a nice shot is all, but it would be out here at 4 movement points, which means no advantage from the carronade. How come I don't have a port shot? Fired off from the Frolic. It looks like it should have. I don't remember. Because the Americans certainly didn't get here first, and yeah, I must have fired a port broadside there. I may not have given them their full advantage for that. But that's clearly the port side. Oh well, too bad. Okay, so for the Americans, 3. See, I can take kind of a tight turn, but here's what I can't do. Next time, I can't swing through the wind. That's the problem, correct? The only way you're allowed to do that is with the tacking and wearing. You're allowed to kind of avoid the wind that way. And I'd really like to turn kind of tightly, but I can't. So I'll take as little as I can here and try to figure out what I want to do on my next move. The Brits had the Americans had the advantage there. Do they want to move again? Yeah, they want to get further away from the Brits here. That's 2 more movement, and I'll hold there with a beam reach. That leaves it on the Brits. We spend 3. And then they'll spend their other 3. And they've still got their port in here, and I'm going to open fire. This is, this may be a, yeah, this is going to be a rake here. And it's a stern rake, so it's at plus 20. So I've got 5272. Coming across there. That's not bad at all. And oh boy, I got 2 more hits. I think the Wasp is done. It can just sit there and it'll strike color when the Frolic gets up there. So that's another quick one down. You can see these littler guys, they don't have quite the same sturdiness. A couple of good hits on them and it's over. Historically, the Wasp won this battle, but it was so beaten up that, what do they say here? It fell prey to to a British ship of the line, the Poitiers, 74 gun, which showed up at the battle as it was closing up. Yeah, you can't get away is the problem if you're so shot up that you can't even outrun. You know, something like the Wasp, which is what? It's 18 guns. I don't know, sounds like a brig to me. it should be able to outrun a ship of the line, but obviously after a battle it may be a little questionable. So that's 2 down, and let's send this one